Hello and welcome to the Inside Stylist podcast, where we talk all about interiors with interviews with interior stylists, writers and the big names in interiors, from brands and PRs to artists and designers. I also catch up with industry experts in the know and get them to share all their knowledge and advice. There's so much to talk about. I'm your host, Emma Morton-Turner, an interior stylist and a writer with a ton of experience. I set up InsideStylist.com so I could share all that interiors love with you. So don't forget to head on over to the website for not only the show notes from today's episode, but for links to interior stylists, writers and assistants profiles, and a ton of inspiration. But for now, enjoy the show. Hello everybody, I would like to welcome you to today's call. I am very honoured to have my business coach on today, Nicola Wilkes from Seriously Stylish Business. Thank you so much, Nicky, for giving me some of your time, because I know how back-to-back your calls get, so I really appreciate you being here. We're going to talk about planning today, because I've actually been doing this since before I met you, so I'm just putting that in there quickly. So I always feel like everyone's talking about planning and it always feels like you're doing it at the same time, but now is the time to do it. And you were kind of an obvious choice to have on, but you've got this amazing workshop. So I have done the planner, so I think everybody will know what I'm talking about. I did the success planner that I send out. This is the third year I've sent it out.
It's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I've adapted it a little for the current situation. And it's kind of one of those things that I normally put out. I try and put it out before the beginning of the year so people can do it when they want. But every single time I've put it out and mentioned it and shared it, I've said, just wait. This year has been a slow start, and you should always plan when you're mentally ready. And I'm listening to my own advice, but you've got a workshop, which we will talk about later on. But I've literally not even opened my own planner because I want to do your workshop on Thursday. So it just made perfect sense to have you come on and talk to the members about planning for the year and also mindset. I'm just going to very briefly kind of talk about how we met, because Nicky's been my coach. I think I booked you last November.
Just over a year, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we did the intensive in December, and I came into London. Was it Homegrown? Was that the name of the?
You met at Albright.
Albright. It was a cold, miserable day. I remember feeling physically sick leaving from all the ideas and all the things that you said I had to do, and I was really scared, a word I'm not going to use this year. But we've been working together for a year. I'm in your masterclass, so I've just kind of total honesty, so everybody knows that's what is happening there. But you have really changed my mindset, and that's why I had you on in March to talk about mindset, and I thought now was a really good time because I think we all need a little refresh. So when it comes to mindset, it really affects whether you're going to come into this year feeling positive or kind of the doom and gloom of the current situation. So do you want to talk a little about mindset and how it affects us and how what we can do to improve our mindset?
I mean, you hear, a mindset is now such a buzzword, isn't it? I mean, it's always been there. It's just, there is, I mean, if you get really woohoo, there is a very global spiritual awakening. People are changing, even all the discussion around, mindfulness in the home. And I mean, gosh, isn't it bizarre that as that discussion was starting to emerge, we go into a global pandemic where suddenly our focus is back in the home and our lives, and how are our lives supporting us both professionally and personally? And never has the mindful sort of attention to detail, i.e. mindset, been more appropriate than now. However, there are so many ways in which we can then further understand how our mindsets work, how we can actually rewire our brains to very, very quickly just adapt. And again, right now, never has there been a more prevalent time to pay some attention to this and to think, okay, so my life is totally different within the realms of possibility from this time last year when we weren't, we didn't know what was coming. So how can I continue to move forward? How can I continue to grow? And as we're talking about this, how can I even plan in this climate? And, can you even plan? And the answer is yes. But there are so many different frameworks and networks that we can draw upon. One, for those that are really geeky about this, is called the Cynefin theory, but it's a way of just looking at planning in a totally different way. And I'd love to share more about that with anyone that wants to know. But it's just about decision making and planning and going forward and taking action on ideas from a different standpoint. So the idea is, right now, we cannot plan in the way that we've always planned, because the goalposts are like this. They are all over the place. But if we can work with how our brain works, and coaching is designed to work with the best of how our brain works, if we can just do that, and really it's not that hard, we can totally change our outlook.
I think it's a real thing. I was talking to an interior designer friend yesterday, and we were just saying how she's just taken everything in-house. She can go to people's houses, but she doesn't want to. And it's her head is thinking about this, that, and the other all over the place. And it's like, we've got to a point where we're much more ready for there to be constant change. The only constant is it will always change. And we are just a bit, I think we've all naturally become more adaptable to it completely, because you know that you might have a shoot booked and then it will change. And someone in the Facebook group yesterday was saying, normally I can just hire from this shop, this shop, this shop, but all the staff are furloughed and I can't get hold of them to borrow props. So you have to be ready to change how you do it and connect. Everyone's very interesting.
One very, very good, very relevant and timely example, lockdown. Okay, so we reacted very slow. Australia, okay, geographically totally different place, but they had almost eradicated it. And I know they keep going into various state lockdowns, but this last week in Brisbane, they identified one case. And I want people to take this analogy of how we can make decisions in a different way and plan in a different way. And they didn't go into this whole, if you look at the Cynefin theory, how you make decisions in simple times where nothing else is going on, where you go into this really long planning phase and you sort of sit around a table and debate, what are we going to do? They just went straight away, lockdown, done, 3 days. Do you know what? After 3, and it was strict. Masks when you leave the house, like given that they had nothing, and we don't even have to leave masks the minute we leave our houses right now. They were like, we're not messing about. We haven't got time to sit and plan and theorize. Lockdown, 3 days, no new cases, done.
Wow, that's amazing.
Lifted. You know, and that's an example of how in these times you don't have this long runway to planning. So it's actually amazing because we can make decisions really quick and go, you know what, I've got this idea. I'm just going to try it. Like, I'm just going to go for it and try it rather than going into this whole procrastination phase. It's actually for creatives making the best of how our brains work.
Yeah, it's been really amazing to see how people have done the pivot. And you know, they're interior design stylists, but they're doing home design for people via Zoom and painting furniture and all sorts of things. People really have just gone, right, well, I can't do what I normally do. I'm just going to do something else on the side. And actually, it's just enhancing what you do for styling. And you might find that's a new path for you and you go off there. I've had so many calls with people who've said, I've been a violinist forever. I want to be a stylist. They've just had this awakening of actually, this is what I want to do. And the creativity of doing a room has kind of sent them off on a completely different tangent. I'm not going to write the word pivot.
The thing is, even if you go and try something, here's the sweet spot. You try it and it doesn't work. Great, go straight back to the drawing board, try something else again. And no matter how many times you back, at some point, you're going to land on something that's amazing. But in complex times, chaotic times like we are now, that's the way you plan. You almost don't have planning time. You just take action, try it. What's the worst you can do? You could fail.
So if someone's mindset is quite, it's very overpowering sometimes. Last week I heard of 4 deaths and actually it took all my strength to go, this is sad, I'm going to have a cry, but I have to keep going. But I'm quite strong in that, and I live in gratitude essentially, and I think that is how I've got by. But if someone is very feeling it very much and feeling it's very heavy on their shoulders and their mindset is spiraling downwards, how can you turn it up? How can you turn it around? Are there small steps you can do? I think it's taken you about a year to change my mindset, because I've been she's going to laugh very quietly. She knows I'm not even 100% there yet, but I know from where I was a year ago to where I am now, I'm a completely different person. So thank you.
You're welcome.
But it's taken a long time. But I was never a negative person. I was always quite a positive person. It was always my internal journey. But my mindset is quite positive in this current situation. But if you're not, I'm going to let you answer. I'm going to shut up.
Well, I think 2 things. You said about being 100%, and I said, yeah, you are. But no, do you know what? None of us are ever 100%. None of us should want to be 100%. I always remember this saying when I was younger, if you think you know everything, you're actually really confused. And I want to say that I'm just scratching the surface of my own personal journey. And you know, being your coach, I literally eat, live, breathe, absorb, coach. You know, when I'm doing my makeup, I listen to meditations that are active meditations. I get up and I read. I listen to podcasts or audiobooks on my walk or in the car. Like, there's no 1 minute that I waste to not absorb, and I'm always training and adding. However, so we always have to be willing to learn. When we are in times like this, it can be really easy to go into what we call in coaching, in neuroscience, a brain deficit, and a body deficit, where we have, you imagine a cup, and I always quote the Oprah video where she talks about keeping your cup not just full, but overflowing. Yeah. And if you imagine this cup is overflowing with liquid, and you're trying to stop it overflowing, it's like you've got more than enough to give yourself and other people. So how do we get the cup to overflowing? And when I talk about a body and a brain deficit, it's just that, you know, when we've got all this added stress, and say homeschooling. I mean, some of you might have seen me post this morning, my little boy's kicked me out of my bed because he was homeschooling and wanted to sit in my bed and be like me. You know, it's just all going on. And that's where we get into a deficit. And I think, and I know you'll hear the self-care kind of stories about how we look after ourselves. I actually think we need to almost stop bandishing that kind of phrase around as though it's another self-care thing. Do you know what? It should be top right now. You know, do whatever you've got to do, whether it's just take yourself on a walk on your own once a day, as well as with the kids, if you can go out. I don't know, can we go out twice a day? But, you know, or even if you just go to the shops once on your own rather than taking everybody, just make sure you get those 5 minutes, or maybe go and grab a takeaway coffee, which we can still do. But rather than rushing home, sit in the car and just allow yourself maybe to listen to a bit of music or to a podcast just for 5-10 minutes. That's better than nothing. But making sure that you are stopping and thinking, how can I keep this cup overflowing? And that's where we start to correct this brain body deficit, which at the moment, let's face it, most of us are in. Because I even had an email from a lady last night who I'm chatting to today, and I stopped in my tracks and I said out loud, that's why I do what I do. She said, I just don't know which way to turn. I'm being nagged constantly by my husband for not doing the housework. And I just thought, no, we can't be going to war with ourselves. So what's my advice as well, on top of the self-care? Do not go to war with yourself on any little bit of this right now that actually doesn't matter. What matters is we're happy, healthy, and our kids are as well, to a certain degree. They're homeschooling, but I also opened an email yesterday where it said, this is actually optional. Please don't fall to pieces over this. Because there's a whole load of stuff behind that too, isn't there? So I think that's my phrase right now, is don't go to war with yourself on it.
I think during the first lockdown, I used to do like a half an hour walk with Alan. Alan's my dog. I'm sure most people know that. And actually, I didn't realise until lockdown that was my meditation time. Even if I didn't sit and deep breathe, and I, like you, I listen to a podcast, I'm listening to a book. Sometimes I might listen to, I've got a happy list on Spotify that if I'm feeling a bit low, songs that you just can't not enjoy. Tina Turner live is quite good, actually.
Oh, I like
Proud Mary, really loud.
Yes, I listened to that during lockdown. Yes, I did.
But actually, during the first lockdown, my walks went from 35 to 45 minutes to an hour and 15, and I loved it. And I got out really early. I mean, I know I'm super early riser, but I got out really early when no one was around, and it was so peaceful. I didn't realise that was my self-care. I just did it because I had to walk the dog, but it's been brilliant. And actually, I have to walk him every day, and getting out, whatever the weather, apart from this morning when I did just stick my coat on and run him up the alley in my pajamas. But in general, you are out in every weather, you are feeling the elements, you are experiencing the change in seasons, and you're out in nature, and it's so good for you. So I've had quite a lot of people with kids going, oh, it's really wet and it's really muddy and I'm sick of the wet and I'm sick of the rain. And I'm like, but you've got to get out. You've just got to get out.
And do you know what? This is something that I really hold dear to me as well. That there was a book I read last year called If Women Rose Rooted, and you were in my masterclass, my mastermind, so you know about this. And it really goes back to what happens to us when we feel the earth under our feet, especially as women. I'm not saying men can't benefit from this too, but we are different beasts. And I mindfully walk and really connect with the fact I am walking on the ground and I am rooted. And you'll know, again, I do visualizations with you and some meditations as we start our calls. And sometimes I'll really get you guys to connect in in that way, because if nothing else, what are we? You know, we are here on the earth, and we're so disconnected from everything. And I think this has shown that. So we can still have these careers. We don't need to go and sort of become yogis and live in the woods. And if anyone is interested in this on a bigger scale, the Surrender Experiment is a wonderful, wonderful book to show how we can run amazing businesses, but also be connected in that way. It's not an or, it's an and. And yeah, that's something that I do. And when I do have the children with me, because I think we see it from our point of view, but they are struggling too. I always walk along. And for me, my daily thing, as well as walking, is going to get a coffee from Nero's, because we all know each other and it's my thing. And we walk back and I say to the kids, how lucky are we that we live in our house where we are? We have these fields, and then suddenly we're next to a coffee shop, and how lucky are we? And I just make them say back to me, we are so lucky.
Yeah, completely. We walk the dog every Sunday. We do a really long walk through the woods, and I do find myself looking up, and like the ferns are all brown and it's beautiful, and I kind of feel the colours of it. But we took the teenagers with us, and it was the first time Darcy got dressed last week. So, but they struggled last week to adapt to the fact that they weren't going back to school for at least 7 weeks. And having been through lockdown, I just thought, well, we've done this, it's fine, we'll be fine. But actually the adjustment has taken a little while, and they are fine this week. But last week wasn't as easy a week. It was much more getting your head around it. So talking about that and being mindful and kind of giving yourself the self-care you need, that's a lot of why I was pushing the don't feel you have to plan for the year ahead straight away. Give yourself some time. So, and you've kind of said this you said the same. You've always said this, I think. So why is it that you shouldn't plan for the first? How do you know when's the right time to start planning?
Well, I don't know about you, but quite frankly, I've never liked New Year's resolutions. And if somebody asks me to make them, or had in the past, I'd just get my knickers in a knot. And the reason I don't like planning for them is I actually love New Year's Day. It's just one of my favorite days over the festive period, because it's just a day to just go for a walk and just allow it all to just settle. And I think what happens is we don't allow the thoughts to percolate and come to us, and we don't have any runway into these goal setting, because gosh, in one day, or you're going to get all these down before the new year even arrives. I mean, who knows how you're going to feel when you've had this break over the festive period. And so many people have a lot of realizations, or so many people actually don't get done a whole list of stuff. I think this is everyone on the planet this year that they'd planned to do. And I just started to think, when I became a coach, and in coaching there is that tendency to feel not only have you got to hold the workshops as soon as you get back, but you've also got to start marketing them before Christmas. I mean, quite frankly, it's a bit like I hire an accountant because I'd rather go for dinner. Before Christmas, I don't want to start marketing a workshop. That is not what I'm available for. So I started marketing it last week, because you know what? I thought, for those people that want to do it, they don't need a month's notice. And I've actually found all the workshops I've done that have started mid to the end of January have been so much more successful, because people have had that, by the time they get there, they're like, sign me up. I am ready to get my vision down, because we've eased into it.
Yeah. And also, I think because of the current situation, last week it was a bit tumultuous. It was a bit, the kids were readjusting. I was readjusting. Shoots and things have been moved. We're settling into this new lockdown. I don't know if I mentioned this to you actually. I was trying to do a Facebook Live with a number of people from around the industry, and people weren't replying to me because they don't want to talk about whether we should be doing shoots or not. I don't want to put myself out there and say this is how to put yourself in danger of COVID by going on a photo shoot. And in the end I was like, do you know what, this isn't happening. This is too early. Everyone isn't ready for it yet. You can't plan these things this week. No one's got their head in that space. But I think that people are. I know I'm ready now. I'm ready to, I've factored time and everything. So
wow.
Never do that. So I don't obviously want you to share all the stuff you're going to be sharing on your workshop on Thursday, but how do you sit down to plan for your business or for your year?
Well, funny enough, somebody messaged me over Christmas. It's nobody in your network, and I'm not going to mention any names anyway, but they said they've been on my radar for a long time. They've spoken to me on numerous occasions. They've tried to start up different versions of a business, and sadly not succeeded, or not succeeded in taking it somewhere. They're very flitty. And I always see them and think, oh, you've got so much potential if you could just bring the focus in and show up for that one idea 110%. So the thing with the masterclass is that someone said, what planner do you buy? How do you plan? I want to get a new planner. And I just said, look, if you're looking for me to recommend a planner because you think a shiny new notebook and a planner, a physical planner is going to make a difference to you actually getting your business off the ground, I'm not going to lie to you. It's not going to. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but I would.
Of course you're allowed to swear.
Well, I think that's bullshit. It's a bullshit excuse. Stop. Just get out of your own way. You are making excuses. You know the whole thing about when we were like maybe 14 and we got a new notebook. That's different because we had a teacher standing over us. But that's the thing, is it works when somebody's there helping you. So the way that I suggest planning is a combination. This is how I take people through, especially in the workshop. It's a combination of 360 degrees. So in my masterclass this week, you get, for instance, my advanced updated reading list of everything I've been reading recently. So things that have been helping me. And it's always current and updated. You get my latest must listen to podcasts, things I've watched on TV that have really moved me to my core. There is nothing that goes on that list that probably didn't create like a lump in my throat or a tear in my eye, or I'm walking out with the dog going, oh my goodness, and people walk past me thinking, what is she talking about, because she's got her AirPods in, and I'm just like, that is unreal. That's what you get in there, coupled with a practical planning book. But as we were saying just now, the planning workbook is to supplement, but it's actually about just being in the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's with the planner, because I don't think you look back. I look back at what I've done in the year, but mainly for my own. By the time I get to January, I've forgotten what I did last January and last February. I mean, when I was doing my tax return, I was checking off that I'd put all my expenses on, and I saw jobs that I'd completely forgotten I'd done for new brands. And actually, it's nice to be reminded that I've worked with a new brand this year, or I've done a job that I've forgotten about that I actually really enjoyed. And I like to go back and it's not a case of ticking off I achieved all my goals. It's more just a reminder of there are things that were successful during that year that you might have forgotten about. Now, what do you want to be successful about moving forward?
And again, so this is how it works. So I was going to say, to carry on from the planner question, this lady asked me, I said, what I do is I'm really active with my Google Calendar. If it's not in it, it's not happening. And I transfer my goals into Asana. So whether you use Trello, Highrise, whatever it is, my entire team that support me work off Asana. And coaching is all about surfacing the invisible. So Thursday's planning session with me. Yes, it's got the practical things. Yes, it's got the handouts. You've got 3 hours of me talking where I will, hopefully, in you, surface the invisible, which I would then like you to, of course, use the workbook, but I would like you to action it, like fully action it, put it in Asana, put it in Trello, make some tangible outcomes that are possible. That's how I work.
If you haven't got a coach who's checking in on you all the time, making sure you're sticking to your goals, thank you. How do you fill out a planner and then stick to it, say in 6 months' time? How do you make sure you're sticking to those goals?
Because I think 6 months is for a whole planner is just too much, to put too much pressure on yourself. This is what I mean is these planning sessions I do, they're about just bringing everything up to the surface and then letting that bubble. Because here's the thing that we'll even be doing Thursday is looking at what did you set for 2020 that actually is still a goal of yours. Not everything has to be left in 2020, and not everybody had a horrific year. That's a fact. Some businesses absolutely thrived. I mean, gosh, all of you guys in my mastermind all thrived. So, what's still relevant, what's not. And the other thing is, I always remember Marie Forleo talking about this, about how in their office, they'd have all these ideas that they wanted to set, these goals they wanted to set on the wall. And then they'd always review them every so often and say, do we still feel the same about that goal? Do we still want to do it? And if not, scrap it. So I think this is when you plan 6 months, I think there's different ways of planning. I use a 3-month runway in Asana. So I've always got the 3 current months. So this month, next month, and the month after. And I've got a to-do, an in progress, and a done, and then an ideas brain dump. So say you get an idea and it's a good one, but for whatever goal setting you've done, it's not a front burner. I always work on what's your front burner stuff. So you imagine a cooker, because we've got too many pots going all the time. So if that's not your front burner and you want to do it, stick it in the ideas tab in Asana. And in 6 months' time, when you can maybe come to plan, or 3 months' time, whatever it is you come to plan, you can look at that goal and think, do I still feel the same way? So your brain's not carrying it around. You're not worrying that you might forget about it. It's there. But I don't know how you're going to feel in 6 months' time. So this is why I say I don't like people to plan too far in advance. There's ways I get you to take big visions, but then I also come back to right now, let's just do baby steps. What do you need to do this week?
So if you've got an overarching big goal, so I always have like there's big things that I want to achieve. I think everyone does. Do you suggest people do something like a vision board, or plan for the big things? So say maybe it's something like you want to move, or you want a new car, or you want to work for a specific brand. How do you encompass that if you're only working on like, you know, your 3-month goals, but you've got something that's bigger than that? Is it just a case of having it written down and remembering that you want to push it forward?
Personally, I do a combination of 3 things. Every morning in the bath, because we all know, or those of you that don't follow me, I'm doing up a 70s house and we have no shower that works right now. So every morning I've been forced to have a bath. So I read a business book and I spend 5 minutes meditating, visualizing. So I get my big goals. I don't mean what am I going to do today? I mean my big vision goals. And I spend time and I'll picture a different situation. It could be, say, a car you want. So I'm just picking an example. And I'll imagine different situations, different scenarios, maybe getting in that car. Am I driving? Is somebody else driving? Is the dog in the back? Where are we going? You know, and I'll spend some time envisaging. I will journal on them, because I find journaling very, very powerful. And you can't see, and I can't show you because it's a bit of a mess. But I spent a lot of time last week. I've got 2 vision boards on my wall that I spent last week doing. And they include things like a villa in Mallorca, because I do desire to live there half the year and run my workshops there. I want to work more with Welsh Women's Aid. There's a Spanish water dog on there because I want a new dog. You know, there's all these things. There's Andrea Bocelli in Portofino. Like, I could keep going, but that's my personal vision board. And I look at it, I don't know how many times a day.
Do you have 2 because there's not enough space for one, or do you have 2 because they're separate things? It's
just they happen to fit on A4, because I'm going to add to them. I'm going to do a whole load of work ones as well. So I just like lots of vision boards, and it's just what I happened to have last week, i.e. no card. But I've also folded them up and just kept them in my purse before now, which, to be honest, I'll probably do. That's another reason I like them small. I like to fold them up, or maybe stick those in my wardrobe as well. So yeah, I'll put vision boards all around the house. Once you set the vision, you start, it's a bit like you see a yellow car, you're going to get a yellow car, and then everywhere you're seeing yellow cars, it's the same thing. So your RAS is activated. That's why that works, and vision boards work.
I think we've answered quite a lot. Is there anything on planning that you want to add?
Well, I know you've asked me here, should we plan for the year or break it down into quarters, months, and why? I don't want to get too complicated about it. I kind of do all of those. So I think about what's my goal today. I don't tend to do weeks, but I have my children week on, week off. So I know that the week that I don't have my children there's a little bit of me time, and it's full on work time. The time that they are here with me, the walks are different, the kids are with me, you know, the cooking is different. So I do tend to plan, I have a feel for a week. So I plan more in a day. What's my intention today? What do I need to get done? I plan more in a month. So I will set a personal intention in my diary, in my plan. It's the only reason I use it. It's a waste of space for all the diary dates. I never put down what am I doing each day, because I use Google Calendar. Because, you know, especially now where we just click on a Zoom link, why would you put it in a diary where you write it down? I don't understand. But I do use it to set my wish list for the month. So this is how my planning changes. My wish list could be, I desire a new iMac, so that, I'm giving you an example now, so that I'm not straining my neck looking down at my laptop. I would be that specific. It wouldn't just be, I want a new iMac. It wouldn't be that. I want it so that. And it's been proven that when we can, especially in sales conversations, when we can say, we do this so that you can, it strengthens the connection. So I always put, I want this so that I can, maybe I want to buy, I don't know, space masks, a pack of space masks so that I can go to sleep in a more calm state or something along those lines. And then I do plan quarters. I do break it down because that's how I use my Asana board.
Yeah.
Of course, at the other end, of course, I use the big vision and I do the 5 years and the 10 years, but I tend to work in those increments.
I'm not very good with time. I think you might know that. I'm not going to blame my ADHD. I am blaming my ADHD. So I have been monitoring how long it takes. This is kind of planning on a day-to-day basis sort of thing. I have been planning out my weeks. So I also use Asana. I need accountability and I need someone who's going to whip my ass. So I've actually got Claire, who's my chief insider. I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this, but we started doing Monday morning meetings every Monday. So we started yesterday. This is really random. She sent me a planner for Christmas. I sent her exactly the same thing.
That's bizarre.
From paper, yeah.
This is accountability, yeah?
Yeah, accountability. So what I do is on a Sunday, I come back from the walk and I do a brain dump. And that is mainly because something you said the other day in our mastermind group about getting stuff out of your head. And I thought, do you know what? The amount of times I've come into the call, number of times there's been tears, and I'm not aware of how things are affecting me or something's bothering me, but I'm never quite sure what it is until it all comes out. And then there was 1 week where it all came out at once. But what I've realized is if I get it all out of my head, so I do a list of personal stuff, a list of house like that I want to do. It's on my mind. It's a to-do list. It's a need to do. It's a work deadline, all of that stuff. So I write it all down now and it's kind of like a journaling thing. Then I plan out what I'm doing for the week. And then I go into Asana and I plan what I'm going to do for the week. Then on a Monday morning, I set a timer because I'm good at talking and I don't want to take up Claire's time. We do it for 20 minutes to half an hour. And I say exactly what I'm going to do. And then she asks me questions. So she's already on it. And yesterday she said, do you allow any contingency time for anything that overflows? And I was like, no, I just shove it all in because it's all got to get done. So I just put it all on the board. And it's yesterday's list hasn't been done already. So it's like I always feel behind. So what I've started doing now is I've got a list of what I'm doing every day and how long it all takes, because I think some things like sharing this Zoom call, I'm like, oh, it'll take half an hour. No, it takes 2.5 hours to put everything together, make sure you've got the questions and the links and all the artwork and sharing it on Facebook and doing the newsletter, and all that stuff takes much longer than I think. So I'm trying to ease in January, planning what I need to do, but timing it so that when I come to plan next week, I know I can't put 10 things in, I can put 2. And it's just getting a handle on the constraints that I have, and it's not being behind. Also, I've said this to you. I don't do New Year's resolutions either. I think they're there. It's there to be broken. Is how I see them. I like to do challenges. So
I love your challenges.
We talk quite a lot about that. So last year my challenge was to do a run every Saturday. And I missed one. And actually, this is where the self-care thing came in, whereas you said. It's okay to not have done that one Saturday. You did 51 out of 52. And it was really hard for me to kind of get my head around that because I was so disappointed that I missed it in October. So I'd gone all the way through the year, through all the pandemic, all the lockdowns, everything, still managing to do it. But I think the bigger challenge last year was the not eating chocolate. I was going to carry that one.
You even sent me some chocolate at some point along with an inhaler, and I don't really know because that was at the point when nobody could get an inhaler, and you didn't eat chocolate yourself. But that's commitment.
Yeah, I'm not doing it this year. But part of the planning thing is that I know that if I leave things to the last minute or I make a decision to do something very last minute, it makes me very stressed. So I'm trying to be on top of my planning, and having Claire do a check-in with me every Monday is the accountability that we were saying. It's really good to have someone seeing what you're doing and giving myself like the goal of getting things done 2 days before it has to go live. Blog post, podcast, everything needs to go 2 days before it's live, apart from this one.
Sense. Yeah, but that's fine. But the accountability thing is huge. To be honest, I am accountable to my mastermind partner in Australia, and we speak twice a day. We speak in my morning and my evenings. Obviously, it's the opposite for her, and that's something that we have ramped up. But because it's happened naturally, but that keeps me accountable. But that is my choice to be that intense with it. We've got big goals this year. And what I would say, though, is that's what I cultivate. I cultivate within my courses is that you join one of them and you become accountable. That's the part of it. And you become accountable. You find your own gang in that, whether it's one person, two people, three people, four, whatever it is. And like, you've got your own accountability partner, and I know they're not within the masterclass, but you've got that group too as well.
I was going to say, because this is literally someone who I can talk to, because she works on Inside Styles with me, so she really gets it, and I can hand work on to her. If I can't do something, I can say, would you mind doing a bit of extra work for me? So that's great. So the mastermind, there's 6 of us in the group, and we talk every day. And sometimes it's just, how you doing? Sometimes it might be, I've got a problem, can you have a look at this? We talk every day. All 6 of us are in pretty much.
That's what's amazing about it. And you do support each other. I
feel like you've got sisters. I've got a sister, but it feels like you've got business sisters. It's like,
but right now,
yeah,
you cannot put a value, like, what's the price on that right now?
No, it's completely it's why I've worked through every single lockdown. It's why I have been so focused on helping people through as best I can from afar. It's just what it's all about. But yeah,
and you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you very much. So let's talk about the masterclass on Thursday. So what I wanted to say was that when I first saw it was 3 hours, I was thinking, oh my God, that's such a lot of time. And then I thought, actually, when I sit down to do my planner, it takes 2.5 hours. So
it's almost like I would rather do this in person at least in a whole day. You know, the intention was a massive workshop, and then because you are my private clients and my mastermind, we would get even more down in the detail the next day, just the 6 of us. But yeah, 3 hours is, I mean, it's a good amount of time, and it's being realistic at the minute as to how long people can sit. We do have a break in between, we have an intermission, but 3 hours is enough time to get the cogs turning. I find most people, when we do a 3-hour workshop, go into one of my courses, because obviously it started things working. But yeah, 3 hours to just start unpicking.
I kind of feel it's, I've allocated time this week. When I planned on Monday, I planned that my whole morning was set aside for planning for Inside Stylists, to get my head around when I want podcasts to go out, what I want, you know, all the little nitty gritty things that I tend to do a week at a time rather than a month at a time, or I've kind of allocated it. So as a freelancer who's a stylist or a writer, what are they going to be able to learn from this? What are they going to be able to take away by doing this planning?
They're gonna, not only are they going to be able to have some time to get the ideas out, like I say, coaching's about surfacing invisible, so I don't know what the ideas are inside of them, and they probably don't know right now. So it's about this time. It's why I combine some visualizations and some journaling exercises that you can do in your own time, but it's a real combination. So they're going to get some actionable steps. They're going to get a dial on what they want. And I always say it's also not what happens in the workshop or in the coaching session, but what happens after. And how this works, if you are interested in the woohoo side of this, it's almost like, imagine the universe is sat at a desk up in the sky. I always quote Boss Baby on this. So you imagine that the universe is up there and he's sat at a desk, and you sign up to a masterclass or a course, or to coach with me, for instance. Anyone it could be, but for instance it's me, and the universe just hears, oh, they're available for the success, great, we're going to start, because they've raised their hand and said, yeah, I'm up for it. They start giving you breaks and wins and successes. Other than if you sat there saying, yeah, I'm not willing to show up and invest, or I'm not willing to spend the time, or I'm just, you know, nothing good will ever happen for me, it happens to everyone else. The universe is like, oh, for goodness sake, like, we can't give that person anything, because they wouldn't even know it if it landed in their lap.
Yeah.
So this is how joining one of these calls works. It's almost like the plates underneath us start moving and shifting.
I believe the pennies are money coming to you. So every time I find a penny, I take a photo, and I thought, I'm driving everyone mad, I'm just going to share it with the mastermind ladies. But I put it into a folder, and I think between August and the end of the year, I think I'd found about 50 coins. And every time I see it, I'm like, right, give that penny to someone, share that luck. I just think that's luck. That's the universe saying, look, here's money for you. And I just think of it as luck coming out. But I've got a bit obsessed with it. But I love it. I get so excited.
It's a good obsession to have. This is why I posted about charity last night, you know. And even just because I did a post on the charity, I went and did an extra donation of £50, because that can help somebody have a cesarean. For those of you that wonder what I'm talking about, you have to look at my feed. But I just did it as an ad hoc, because I thought, I'm not posting and not donating. Obviously I donate anyway, but at the time that I post. And it's just about showing up. It's just about what vibration are we operating on. And so that's how I work. I mean, obviously you know how I work, but for those that are watching, it's just about saying, you've got to be in it to win it.
Yeah. Completely.
That simple.
So where do people need to go to sign up?
They need to go to my Instagram handle, which is Seriously Stylish Business, and hit the link in the bio. And you need to get on quick. I know people will be watching this in hopefully months to come, but obviously if you watch it timely today, you need to get in quick because we send out workbooks. But if not, they can always DM me. Anyone that's watched any one of your calls can DM me for a free 20-minute chat anyway and talk about how you work with me if you've missed this masterclass.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you for that. That's great. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's great. I'm really excited about planning because I've put it off now. It's almost like it's something you've got to do, but when you plan the time to do it, you can't wait to get on with it now. It's like
no pressure.
Yeah. Thank you, Nicky. It's been brilliant. Thank you for everyone who's been joining in. There's been lots of comments, Nicky, about just things that you've said and links through to the coaching that we couldn't spell.
Knevin theory.
Yeah. That and have shared the link in below so people can go and listen to that. I'm going to turn this into a podcast now. That's my whole day planned. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you very much, Nicky. I will see you on Thursday.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Inside Stylist podcast. You can find all the details from today's episode over in the show notes on insidestylist.com. If you enjoyed the show, I'd love it if you would head on over to iTunes and rate and review it. It's the best way to help other people find the show, and I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, bye for now.